Imagine it's like the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. You're standing in this massive 50,000 square foot supermarket, and it is just absolutely packed.
Oh, the absolute worst time to be there.
Right. Carts are overflowing, registers are humming, you've got the holiday playlist blaring, and then suddenly everything just goes pitch black.
Total silence.
Exactly. The music cuts out, the automatic doors freeze shut, and in the next 60 seconds, tens of thousands of dollars in highly perishable goods start this quiet, invisible countdown toward complete ruin.
It's a terrifying scenario for any store manager.
And the wildest part about this whole thing, the manager's very first move is not to, scramble to save that food.
No, not at all.
Their first move is to actually march into a dark back office, pick up a phone, and prepare to spend 45 agonizing minutes on hold with the local utility company just to figure out what happened.
It's a stunning vulnerability when you really look at it. We all walk into these massive, brightly lit commercial spaces and operate on this massive implicit assumption that the building is just working.
Right. We take the illusion of permanence completely for granted. We assume the lights will stay on, the registers will talk to the banks, the milk will stay cold.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But underneath that frictionless shopping experience, there's this incredibly fragile web of infrastructure. And when one single thread snaps, the entire illusion shatters instantly.
Which brings us to today's deep dive. Our mission today is uncovering that exact hidden, invisible layer of retail operations that keeps our modern shopping experiences from just instantly unraveling.
And we have a great source for this.
We do. We're going to be exploring a really fascinating piece of source material today. It's an article by Ashish S. titled From Outages to Outcomes, How Gisual Enables AI-Powered Retail Operations.
Yeah, it's such a brilliant, granular look into the mechanics of what happens when the physical world goes dark, and, more importantly, how the corporate response to that darkness is undergoing a massive, fundamental shift.
So whether you're someone who strictly uses buy online, pick up in store from your couch, or you actually love browsing the aisles of a physical shop on a Sunday, you're relying on this implicit belief that the store's basic infrastructure is sound. Okay, let's unpack this, because reading through this piece, the sheer cascading chaos of a power outage is terrifying. We aren't just talking about the lights going out, are we?
Not at all. To understand why this AI solution is so revolutionary, you first have to understand the anatomy of a retail blackout.
Yeah.
It's really a cascading failure of interconnected systems.
Right.
When a store loses commercial power, it doesn't just, interrupt the person standing at the register trying to buy a turkey. It instantly paralyzes the entire operating model.
Everything just stops.
Exactly. The local network connectivity drops dead.
Yeah.
That means the store is essentially severed from the corporate nervous system. And the cold chain, the massive refrigeration units holding the meat, the dairy, all the frozen goods, they immediately start to warm up.
And the human element completely derails, too. The retail associates, the people whose entire job is to serve you, the customer, they suddenly have to abandon their posts.
Right. They instantly morph into these impromptu IT troubleshooters wandering around with flashlights.
Which is wild. Meanwhile, the customers just abandon their carts in the aisles and walk out the door. The intent to purchase is completely unmet.
And that leads to this really critical insight from the source material. The hardest part of this entire disaster isn't actually fixing the broken wire.
Oh, really?
No. The hardest part, the thing that bleeds the most time and money and morale, is simply answering one deceptively simple question. What exactly is wrong?
Wow. Just diagnosing it.
Yeah. In a legacy retail network, answering that question requires this massive, archaic chain of human coordination.
Wait, I have to push back on this a little bit. Isn't it incredibly obvious when the lights go out? Why is it so hard to know if it's a dead grid outside or just a blown fuse in the back room?
That's obvious, right?
Yeah. If my house goes dark, I don't call 5 different neighbors to see if their power is out. I just walk over and check my own breaker box. Why is a multi-million-dollar business operating like this?
What's fascinating here is how that exact lack of visibility plays out at a massive corporate scale. You have to put yourself in the shoes of the people sitting in a centralized network operations center hundreds of miles away.
Okay.
To them, a down signal just means the store's internet routers stop talking to the server. They can't look out the window and see if the streetlights are off. They just see a blinking red dot on a massive digital dashboard.
Ah, I see. So to the central system, silence is just silence. It doesn't tell you the why.
Precisely. It's the opposite of a clear picture. Is the entire city blocked out of power because of a storm? Did a construction crew down the street accidentally cut a fiber optic cable with a backhoe?
Or did, like, a new employee accidentally unplug a critical server rack in the back room to plug in a vacuum cleaner?
Exactly.
Oh,
Or is it a localized breaker failure? They have no idea.
so the store manager is calling the district manager. The district manager is calling the corporate IT desk. The IT desk is manually checking monitoring systems. And then someone is finally calling the utility provider and just sitting on hold.
Yeah.
It's an insane game of telephone just to figure out the root cause.
And time literally stretches during this game of telephone. The delay is the enemy here. Every minute that ticks by, thousands of dollars of perishable goods are getting closer to the temperature danger zone.
And revenue is permanently lost because customers are just shopping elsewhere.
Right. And perhaps most importantly, customer trust erodes. You can spend millions optimizing your store layout, your end cap displays, your branding, but if your invisible operational awareness is slow and fragmented, your brand suffers.
It's wild to think about a massive retail chain spending fortunes on the exact placement of, like, a cardboard display, but when the power drops, they're essentially just picking up a landline and guessing what happened. Here's where it gets really interesting, because the article introduces a company called Gisual, and they are essentially flipping this entire manual, agonizing diagnostic script completely on its head.
They really are. They're coming at the problem from a fundamentally different starting point.
How so?
Well, instead of waiting for the red dot to appear on the dashboard and then scrambling to assemble clues from phone calls and manual checks, Gisual's premise is, what if we could answer that initial question, what's wrong, instantly at the exact moment the failure happens?
And they're doing this using AI-based outage intelligence. The article notes they have global utility coverage, which gives them real-time visibility into the commercial power status of any store, warehouse, or distribution facility.
Yeah.
So within seconds, or at most minutes, the operations team knows definitively if power is present at that specific location. And they're boasting a 99% accuracy rate.
That speed completely transforms the opening move of a crisis. You're bypassing the entire human escalation chain.
But I'm trying to wrap my head around the actual mechanics of this. The article uses the phrase remote off-network diagnosis. So does this mean Gisual installs some kind of, like, heavy-duty smart meter on the store's wall with a massive battery backup so it can text the corporate office when the main power dies?
No, and that is the crucial technological leap here. They don't install new hardware at the store at all.
Wait, really? No hardware?
None. Gisual isn't relying on the store's internal network to report its own death because, logically, a dead system cannot speak.
That makes sense.
Instead, Gisual is continuously looking outward. They're aggregating massive, continuous streams of telemetry data from the global utility grid itself.
Oh, I get it. They aren't looking at the plug, they're looking at the power plant.
That is a great way to put it. Their AI models ingest and interpret data from regional substations, power providers, and utility grids in real time.
Wow.
So the exact second that router goes silent and the red dot appears on the retailer's dashboard, Gisual's system instantly cross-references that specific stores coordinates with the live utility grid data.
That's incredibly fast.
It is. If the regional grid feeding that block is down, Gisual instantly flags the red dot as a verified external commercial power outage.
That is brilliant. The article mentions Gisual originally cut its teeth building this tech for telecommunications and banking. Obviously, if a cell tower drops or an ATM goes dark, there are massive financial penalties.
Absolutely.
But the author argues that the retail environment actually amplifies the value of this tech even more.
Because of the heavy footprint of physical goods. Think about it. If a cell tower goes down, digital packets stop flowing. It's a huge problem, but it's a purely digital one.
Right.
If a 50,000 square foot grocery store goes down, you're dealing with a massive interconnected physical ecosystem. The cold chain integrity is immediately threatened. The inventory visibility vanishes.
And the labor force is suddenly useless for their primary tasks.
Exactly. The complexity of a physical retail outage is exponentially higher because you're fighting against the biological clock of perishable food and the physical presence of angry foot traffic.
So by using this AI outage intelligence, they just instantly bypass the agonizing manual triage. They stop the corporate office from dispatching an IT technician, paying them $300 for an emergency visit, only for the tech to arrive, look around, and say, yeah, the whole street is dark, call me when the utility company fixes it.
That happens far more often than people realize. And that transitions perfectly into understanding the difference between a raw signal and an actual system behavior. Because just knowing the power is out is only half the battle.
Right. It's like if my smoke detector goes off, it's fantastic that it knows there's a fire. But if I don't actually get up, grab my family, and leave the house, the signal didn't save me.
Exactly.
The conversation has to evolve from just detecting the signal to how the entire massive retail ecosystem acts on it.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, there is a massive shift happening right now across enterprise operations.
Mm.
Organizations are moving rapidly away from manual dashboards toward agent-driven workflows and automated decisioning.
Stop right there. Let's do a quick translation for anyone who isn't a software engineer. Agent-driven workflows and automated decisioning. What does that actually look like in practice?
It means that instead of a human looking at an alert and deciding what to do, software agents are pre-programmed to take specific actions based on specific inputs.
Okay, so the system drives itself.
Basically. But here's the catch. An automated system can only act effectively based on what it knows to be absolutely true. The quality of the input dictates the quality of the response.
Makes sense. Garbage in, garbage out.
Exactly. And in a physical retail environment, the commercial power status is the most foundational truth of all. If you do not know for an absolute fact whether the building has power, every single automated decision your system tries to make is just a dangerous guess.
So how does Gisual feed this foundational truth into the system so it can act? Does someone just type power is out into a central database?
No, they use API integrations. An API, or application programming interface, is essentially a digital translator that allows two completely different pieces of software to talk to each other instantly.
Right.
Gisual's outage intelligence flows directly into the retailer's existing operational systems through these APIs. It's a real-time data feed wiring directly into the store's digital nervous system, no human typing required.
I love the nervous system analogy. It's the difference between touching a hot stove, looking at your hand thinking, wow, that feels incredibly hot, and then deciding to move your arm versus your spinal cord instantly ripping your hand back before your brain even fully registers the pain. Gisual is basically giving the retail store a digital spinal cord reflex.
That is exactly what is happening. And the source material details the domino effect of these reflexes. Once the AI verifies the outage through the API, it triggers entirely automated actions.
Like what?
Well, for instance, the retailer's order management system instantly sees the failure and automatically reroutes all incoming buy online, pick up in-store orders away from the dark store to another location in a neighboring zip code.
That is incredible. So the customer sitting on their couch trying to buy groceries doesn't get a frustrating error message or show up to a dark, locked building. Their order just seamlessly moves to a working store 3 miles away.
Exactly. Furthermore, it triggers store-level preservation protocols. It sends automated alerts to the staff's mobile devices, telling them to stop trying to ring up customers and immediately deploy thermal blankets over the open refrigerated dairy cases to trap the cold air.
That's amazing. And conversely, if Gisual's system checks the grid and confirms that commercial power is present, meaning the city grid is fine, but the store is still dark, the automated response is entirely different, right?
Totally different. Because now the corporate operations team instantly knows the problem is inside the four walls of the building.
It could be a blown main breaker or a severed local line.
Exactly. Now, they can confidently dispatch a specialized electrician knowing exactly what kind of problem they're paying them to solve.
It creates a highly coordinated response shaped by a single reliable source of truth. The human panic, the guesswork, the holding on the phone, it's entirely removed from the equation.
And the source material notes the staggering scale of this automation. Over 100,000 monthly tasks are now being handled through this automated diagnosis. They cited one retail example that showed a massive return on investment simply by automating thousands of operational IT tickets.
So we've talked a lot about the operational savings, stopping the unnecessary technician visits, rerouting the digital orders, deploying the thermal blankets. But the author brings up this highly specific, often ignored secondary benefit that I found totally fascinating.
Oh, the insurance aspect.
Yes. It's an overlooked lever that directly impacts a retailer's bottom line long after the dust settles and the lights come back on. So, what does this all mean for the financial aftermath? Because after a major blackout, say a hurricane knocks out power for 2 days, retailers absorb catastrophic losses.
Massive losses. We're talking actual dumpsters full of spoiled inventory, entirely lost days of transactional sales, huge operational disruptions.
Right. And recovering those financial losses relies entirely on presenting bulletproof documentation to insurance companies?
And historically, the why of that process has been a nightmare of friction. I mean, insurance adjusters are, by definition, looking for reasons to minimize payouts or dispute claims.
Naturally.
To file a successful claim for spoiled inventory, a retailer has to prove exactly when the outage began, exactly how long it lasted, and exactly what specific systems were impacted. Think about the thermal decay rate of ice cream versus frozen peas. The timeline matters immensely.
I can only imagine. Imagine trying to prove to your own home insurance adjuster exactly which minute your garage freezer died, just so you could get a payout for a few $100s of spoiled steaks.
Oh, they would fight you on it. Prove to me the power went out at 2 p.m. and not 4 p.m.
Exactly. Now imagine having that exact same argument for thousands of massive grocery stores across the country simultaneously. In the old manual model, a stressed out store manager is basically just guessing, saying, well, I think the lights flickered around 2:15 and they came back on the next morning.
And that manual ambiguity leaves massive room for insurance adjusters to dispute the timeline and delay the reimbursement.
But with a system like Gisual, seamlessly integrated via API, that ambiguity is completely eradicated.
Because the system is constantly monitoring the grid, it generates validated, machine-generated timestamps. It records the exact millisecond commercial power was lost and the exact millisecond it was restored.
It's unimpeachable mathematical proof. The article points out that this turns a highly debated, agonizing manual negotiation into a strictly verifiable data transfer. Claims process faster, disputes plummet, and the reimbursement timelines shrink drastically.
Which is huge. In an industry like grocery or retail, where profit margins are famously razor thin, recovering that lost revenue quickly is a massive financial lever. The IT diagnostic tool literally doubles as foolproof financial armor.
It's a phenomenal example of how fundamentally improving the lowest foundational layer of a system, that simple binary awareness of power status, creates massive ripple effects across entirely different departments.
Right. What starts as a technical diagnostic fix for the IT team instantly becomes an automated customer service fix for the online order team.
And ultimately becomes a streamlined recovery process for the corporate finance department. When the very first step in a crisis becomes verifiable and instant, every subsequent step benefits.
Which brings us to the final and perhaps most profound concept in the source material.
Pulling the lens way back.
Exactly. The author explores how underlying capabilities like this point to a massive, quiet paradigm shift in the future of the physical retail space. They refer to this concept as retail store IQ.
Retail store IQ.
This raises an important question about how we, culturally, define innovation in the retail sector. For the last decade, almost all the headline-grabbing innovation has been focused entirely on the customer-facing experience.
The front end.
Right, the front end. Flashy mobile loyalty apps, frictionless self-checkout kiosks that scan your face, augmented reality fitting rooms. Those are the shiny objects that get written about in tech blogs.
Right. As consumers, we obsess over the front end. We want the app to load half a second faster. We want the checkout process to be totally invisible. We entirely ignore the massive back-end operations until the moment they break.
We only notice when it fails.
Exactly. Think about how frustrating it is when just one single smart bulb in your living room loses its Wi-Fi connection. You tap the app, nothing happens, and you instantly feel frustrated. Now scale that anxiety up to a massive corporate enterprise trying to manage 5,000 disconnected dark stores across 3 time zones.
It's staggering. And retail store IQ is about recognizing that a physical store is no longer just a concrete box where goods are stored on metal shelves and sold by cashiers. Stores are rapidly evolving into intelligent systems in their own right.
So they're becoming like smart homes on a massive scale.
Basically, yeah. They're becoming sensing organisms that can observe their own state, interpret that environmental data, and act on it in real time. And the ability to determine a store's foundational state, its power status, without any human intervention, is a deeply foundational advantage.
It's quieter than a flashy new consumer app. It's far less visible to the shopper, but it builds the ultimate system confidence.
Without that foundational layer of awareness, any automated enterprise system is operating with severe uncertainty. If the central brain does not know if the limbs have blood flow, to use a biological metaphor, it cannot possibly coordinate a survival response.
Wow, that's a great way to put it.
But with it, they operate with total clarity. It completely redefines what true resilience means in modern business. Resilience is not about building a magical system that never ever fails.
Because that's an impossible goal. Hurricanes happen, transformers blow, fiber cables get cut.
Exactly. True resilience is about sensing that failure instantly, accurately, and adapting to it immediately without human panic or delay.
That is such a powerful distinction. It's not about preventing the storm. It's about having a nervous system that instantly knows exactly how to protect the body the moment the storm hits.
Beautifully said.
It really makes you rethink the entire journey we've taken in this deep dive. I mean, we started by looking at the chaotic manual phone trees of legacy retail outages. A store manager standing in the dark, panicked, calling their district manager, who calls corporate support, who calls the utility waiting on hold while the frozen goods slowly decay and the customers walk out.
And we traced how that archaic process evolved into a sleek, API-driven, AI-validated resilience. Systems like Gisual eliminate the human guesswork.
They automatically reroute customer orders to save the sale, instantly prevent expensive technician dispatches, trigger physical preservation protocols in the store, and even generate the mathematically verified timestamps needed for insurance companies.
It takes the absolute most stressful, uncertain, chaotic moment in retail operations and distills it into a structured, automated, and instantly actionable data point.
So the next time you walk into a brightly lit store and those automatic doors slide open for you, take a second to think about the incredible, invisible web of intelligence working furiously behind the scenes. It's not just copper wires and breaker boxes anymore. It's an evolving, sensing ecosystem, keeping those lights on and those shelves perfectly stocked.
And that evolution leads to a final, really fascinating thought to mull over, building directly on the trajectory of this source material.
Oh, what's that?
If we are truly entering an era of retail store IQ, where a physical building can autonomously sense a massive grid failure, instantly reroute a customer's digital order to another zip code, and automatically file a verifiable insurance claim for spoiled inventory, what happens when this intelligence starts sensing and reacting to other invisible signals?
Oh, that's an interesting leap. Like what kind of signals?
Well, if the store is already functioning as a sensing organism, could it eventually predict and physically reconfigure itself based on hyperlocal weather shifts pulling from radar APIs?
Oh.
Right. Could it sense a sudden, unexpected spike in neighborhood foot traffic on a Tuesday afternoon and automatically adjust its internal lighting, change its digital signage pricing, or even drop its internal temperature to accommodate the extra body heat?
That's wild.
Could a physical store eventually read the aggregated, anonymized emotional sentiment of a crowd during a chaotic holiday rush and adapt its environment completely without a human manager ever pushing a button? The baseline of commercial power awareness is just the first domino. The ceiling for an intelligent, reactive physical space is absolutely limitless.
Wow. From simply sensing a dead power plant 5 miles away to eventually sensing the collective mood of a Tuesday morning crowd, that is a wild science fiction trajectory to imagine. And it all starts with just knowing, instantly and without a doubt, if the lights are actually on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the invisible systems operating all around you, and we will catch you next time.